Hi everybody, it's Adam for RealHomeRecording.com. Let's talk Brickwall limiters. These are my top 5. Starting at number 5, Izotope's Ozone 5 IRC3 Brickwall limiter. This limiter has been my go-to for quite some time now. It has a special place in my heart, but compared to newer offerings, it unfortunately lacks in sound quality and ability to be pushed hard without mucking things up, for lack of a better word. Now, Izotope does have the upcoming Ozone 7, which has IRC4, so we'll see if that offering takes Ozone from the bottom of the chart to the top. At the number 4 spot, Vlage limiter number 6. It's free, it's good, but its interface isn't exactly user-friendly, and there's a lot of options. And I'm using the clean GUI called GUI number 2. It also doesn't natively support Pro Tools, so you'll need a wrapper plugin if you want to use it. The sound quality is nice, but when it comes to Brickwall limiting, I want good results fast, and limiter number 6 isn't that. At the number 3 position, FabFilter's Pro L plugin. This limiter sounds fantastic. It's really close between the number 1 and number 2 spots, except that the stereo image started collapsing sooner than the other 2 limiters, and the loudness perception was less before distortion. Also, out of the top 3, Pro L cost the most. So for those reasons, it got the number 3 spot. Next up at number 2, A.O.M Invisible Limiter. It's very transparent to a point. It's similar to the number 1 limiter with a less CPU hit. So if you have an older system, this one might be the one to pick. To my ears, the number 1 limiter in this list retained the illusion of dynamics better than Invisible Limiter at the more extreme settings, which I consider to be between 6 and 8 decibels of gain reduction. At the time of this video, Invisible Limiter is a little bit cheaper than the number 1 limiter in this list, but you can buy a 1-year license that is substantially cheaper than the number 1 spot. Believe me guys, it was close picking between these 2 plugins, but the number 1 limiter for 2015 so far, and we're close to the end of the year, so it's time to make these list videos. The number 1 goes to this, which I was shocked by. IK Multimedia's Stealth Limiter. I saw this plugin release back in August this year, and I really wasn't that excited about it because IK Multimedia previously put out a pretty shitty Brickwall limiter. So I ignored it until I decided to make this video, and I said, you know, I gotta check out their offering. I can't just assume that it's gonna be terrible like the previous one. And so I ran a bunch of material through this limiter, compared it with Pro L, compared it with A.O.M Invisible Limiter. I compared everything, and out of all of them, not only was this the easiest to use, not only did it have the necessary options which I consider constant gain monitoring to be. Actually, it's called Unity Gain Monitoring in this plugin. It has intersample limiting, which is super important to me. It also has dithering, and it has different styles of limiting, which you can hear. They're not that subtle, where even, low-end speakers should be able to hear this, if not low-end headphones, like in the $50 to $100 range. But like I said, I ran a bunch of material through all these different limiters, and this was the best one. I was able to increase the perceived volume without destroying the dynamics. So my award for number 1 limiter, Brickwall limiter of 2015 goes to this plugin. And there were some honorable mentions. Number 1, Slate FGX. I am of the belief that other plugin developers reverse engineered FGX, which I believe came out in 2010. It was Slate Digital's first plugin. Yes. version 1.0 flipped the limiter market on its head. It had this amazing ability to retain punch while making the master louder. Obviously, it had distortion issues, but it still sounded great for the music I needed it on. But it is not the number one. It was dethroned. For the longest time, FabFilter Pro L was the best until Invisible Limiter came along and I think dethroned it, and I think Stealth dethroned that. Okay, so more honorable mentions because I haven't used these yet, so you might want to check them out. Tone Boosters Barricade, which is a very inexpensive limiter. Voxengo Elephant 4. TB Pro Audio's LA X Limit. That's a new plugin company. I was just looking at some of their software yesterday, and I'm definitely going to be checking out some of their plugins and possibly reviewing them. Also, TDR has a plugin called Kotolnikov, which it's supposed to be a clean compressor. So if you use that in tandem with Stealth Limiter, you'll have some awesome mastering chain. Another cool feature I like about Stealth is they have this, basically it's a fourth order high pass filter around 22 kilohertz. And what that does is it gets rid of the extreme low end, which you don't need when you're mixing. To be honest with you, because I already have high pass filters that I like to cut things off at 30 kilohertz. I'm sorry, 30 hertz. I said it wrong earlier. 30 hertz is where I like to cut the low end off at. This has it at 22 hertz. And that's this control right here. So yeah, the only problem with Stealth is it is a CPU sucker. I'm running an Intel i7 4770 processor, and I was getting some pretty high CPU usage. Now, nothing that is going to kill it if I'm mastering my music, but it's a hell of a hit. So, like I said, if you're using a lower end system, an older system, then you might want to check out Invisible Limiter because it is definitely like half as CPU hungry. Now you can disable the inner sample peak limiting, but that's kind of the point of this plugin, if you ask me. So yeah, I know I missed a bunch of plugins. Feel free to mention them in the description. I'm not biased towards any Brickwall limiter. In fact, I'm going to actually hold off from buying this, number one, because I'm not mixing music at the moment. But number two, Slate Digital is planning on releasing FGX 2.0 for free to version 1.0 customers. And their aim is to make the best sounding limiter. So we'll see if that happens. And hopefully that is the case, because I would love to save money. This has been Adam for RealHomeRecording.com.